In our introduction to linear functions, we learned they always have a special feature, a consistent adding or subtracting rate of change. In fact, there is a specific name for rate of change that only linear functions have: slope. What is slope and how does it appear in Algebra 1? You may have heard of the phrase rise over run, and here's an example on a graph. We can mark 2 points on a line and draw a rise line 3 units tall and a run line 2 units wide. Rise over run is a way to remember a formula, and it means the rise number divided by the run number. Therefore, our final answer for the slope of this line is 3 over 2 as a fraction. But let's take a quick step back to see where rise over run comes from. Here's a formal definition of slope. Slope is a measure of the steepness or incline/decline of a line on a graph. This steepness is calculated as the ratio of the change in the y values to the change in the x values between 2 points on a line. If you remember from previous math, a ratio is a comparison between two quantities. For example, to make a certain color of paint, you might use 2 quarts of red for every 1 quart of blue, and we'd say this is a 2-to-1 ratio of red to blue. It's the same with slope. We are comparing the vertical steepness to the horizontal steepness and representing it as a ratio, and that leads us back to rise over run. If you think of something rising, you probably think of something going up, and the fancy word for this is vertical. Therefore, rise represents the vertical steepness in our ratio. When you think of the word run, you may think of a person running. If you're watching someone run across your vision, they're probably moving left or right, and the fancy word for this is horizontal. Therefore, run represents the horizontal steepness in our ratio. Finally, as mentioned earlier, rise over run is just a clever way to remember a formula. So let's look at the official formula for slope. Again, slope is the change in y values compared to the change in x values. When using 2 points on a graph, this means we need to find the difference between the y values to get the change in y, and find the difference between the x values to get the change in x. If we put this as a fancy formula, it looks like this: y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. This may look scary, but again, it just calculates how much the y values change and divides by how much the x values change. And this leads us back to our phrase, rise over run. Finally, to end the video, let's briefly see the 4 types of slope. Positive slope looks like a line that is going up from left to right. This means as we follow the line moving to the bigger numbers on the x-axis, the line is going up. Negative slope is the opposite. It goes down from left to right. Zero slope is flat because it means there is no change at all in the vertical steepness. Imagine a heartbeat monitor. If the heart stops and is beating 0 times per minute, what would the line look like? Completely flat or zero slope. Finally, undefined slope is a vertical up and down line. This means the vertical change is a number because the line is going up, but the horizontal is not changing at all. Therefore, our rise is some number, and the run is 0 because there is no horizontal change. A number divided by 0 is undefined, so that's why we call this type of slope undefined.